Burmese brothers and sisters who are down here today with some material about what's going on in their countries, and that'll give you a little bit of an idea of just how bad things can get if we give up on the essentials that we hold dear but is nowhere written into any Australian Constitution or Bill of Rights. Freedom of speech here is something that we just assume we have, and we have no legal entitlement to that at all under Australian law. It's something that goes a lot deeper. What WikiLeaks has done, I think, is exposed a crack in the facade. So most of the folk here already have very strong views about the nature of power, about the nature of our ally, the United States, about what corporations are doing to the planet. But I think probably most of the folk walking past us today will probably have slightly different ideas. And what WikiLeaks has done, like many before them, and the brave people behind that, has exposed a crack in the facade. Has shown us the difference in black and white between what we're told and what is actually going on, between the on-the-record version and the off-the-record version. And the interesting thing is now the off-the-record version is very, very much on the record. So there are a couple of issues here. One of them is about secrecy, it's about information, it's about the power of the internet, and the people in the eye of the storm who we've mentioned today, the staff of WikiLeaks, Julian himself, Private Bradley Manning, who's in there by himself in solitary confinement in a maximum security US prison. These are the people in the eye of the storm. And I think Michael put it beautifully in his talk about the power of the press and the push and pull between governments, corporations, people in power, and those who seek to bring those stories out into the light. But the other story, I think, is about war. It's about the messy and violent reality of warfare and diplomacy, the actual material of the cables, distinct from the story of the people who've made them available to us, and that fascinating and compelling story. What is actually in there? And that is what I think we need to not lose track of. Our country is at war. Nobody in the senior levels of the governments involved in the war in Afghanistan believe that that thing can be won, whatever winning looks like in that context. We are being lied to, and we have been since the very beginning. Notice the shift in messaging from the US State Department and their allies. When these cables were first dumped into the public domain late last year, there was panic, there was fever. They didn't have their stories straight, they were furious. And then look what happened to the shift in the messaging. Oh, it's just gossip. Oh, we knew that already before. There's actually nothing to see here. Very, very different tone. Don't bother downloading that stuff. That's just, it's diplomatic gossip. We knew that already. Actually, we did know some of it. We knew Kevin Rudd was a control freak. And quite frankly, who cares? We didn't know that the Australian government had offered special forces troops for operations inside Pakistan. We didn't know that. That is very important. We didn't know that the Defence White Paper, although many people suspected of a couple of years ago, this is Australia's defence blueprint, controlling enormous amounts of spending for the next 10 to 20 years, is to gear us up for potential war with China. That's now on the record as well. We didn't know that the US was running false flag missile strikes inside Yemen. And we didn't know that Shell has infiltrated, for example, the government of Nigeria right up to the very highest levels. So I don't care about the gossip and the personality bits and pieces that's being traded about which foreign minister said something bitchy to who. That doesn't matter, but it has blown open a crack in the facade between what we're told and what is actually going on. There's no global conspiracy there. There is the violent and messy and barely under control reality of nation states and corporations hustling. It also, I think, exposes the very human side of what goes on. Kevin Rudd has been advocating for autonomy for Tibet with the Chinese government. There's not some kind of global conspiracy there. It exposes them as human beings doing a difficult and messy and occasionally violent and extremely nasty job. Why do they lie to us? Why exactly do they lie about these things? And I think it's because they know that we are better than that we wouldn't tolerate it if they were putting the truth out in their press releases. And that gives me an enormous amount of hope. Something is arising here that is changing the balance. The old saying that our resistance will be as transnational as capital, I think is coming through all the way around us. And we've got our medium now. We've seen how it's being used to enormous and dramatic effect in North Africa and the Middle East that the other speakers mentioned. Growing numbers of people whose allegiance is not to one particular flag or another, but their allegiance is to our common humanity. Watch what's happening in Egypt now. A loose alliance of activists going only by the name of Anonymous, belting Egyptian government servers, helping to network the people who are there on the ground on the front line. The medium itself and the activity that's going on there is so powerful that the Egyptian government pulled the net offline the night before last, and that's the first time that's happened. That is how powerful we've become. And I'm glad that every speaker today has mentioned so that we can hold our brothers and our sisters in Egypt and across North Africa in mind as we hold this rally here under the watchful eye of the police. There'll be no tear gas fired today, but that's just lucky for us in this particular place and time. The WikiLeaks phenomenon is a new global twist on a dynamic that is probably as old as journalism. So if you haven't yet, make a donation to WikiLeaks, to the people in the eye of the storm. Keep doing things as simple as adding your comments to online news articles where this stuff's being discussed. And keep organising. Something very big and profound is happening, and it's great to be a part of it. Thanks heaps for coming out today.